Hello. Okay, so today for this podcast episode, for this special podcast episode, I'm going to talk about ghosting. I've already talked about ghosting, but I kind of want to talk more about it and how I think it's affecting our culture and just how we communicate now. Um, yeah, I'm going to talk about ghosting today in regards to men's friendships. As always, men's couches primarily talk about men's friendships, and today I'm going to talk about the impact that ghosting has on men's friendships and how the integrity of men's friendships, how ghosting happens, and why I think it's just not a good thing to happen, why I think it's a relational trauma, um, and all those things. So it's kind of like a part two to the other ghosting episode. If you haven't listened to that, go listen to it. Um, but yeah, there's a deer. Oh, there's two deers. I'm in my backyard, um, and I am enjoying the stream. But so, what I define as ghosting as an abrupt um, cutting off of a friendship where you just don't respond to someone's attempts to reach out, um, and you just basically you ignore them and you pretend like that other person is a ghost, but you're trying to pretend like you're dead, as a trying to do like a metaphor. You're existing, but you're not existing in the other person's life, and you're trying to disappear. Um, but that's my definition of ghosting, is when someone just abruptly cuts off a friendship or relationship. Um, the other person may not know why, but it's just, you just don't respond. And um, I do want to raise awareness to this problem. It seems to be becoming more of like a common problem with friendships, and I'm mostly talking about friendships. I'm not talking about dating relationships, but it also happens in romantic relationships as well. And I want to talk about how that impacts, or how that affects how we go about friendship. And it seems like in our culture now, it's just so easy to just ghost someone instead of communication. And ghosting, I don't consider that communication or healthy communication at all. It's just a way to avoid things. But if we want authentic friendships, and if we want to have, sorry, my nose is a little stuffy. If we want authentic friendships, and if we want um, those intentional friendships, then ghosting is definitely not the answer to that. And it actually communicates the opposite of what we want. And it's kind of a fear-based solution to a communication problem, or a problem about the friendship. And I feel like this is, most of the things I say is my opinion, so please take what I say lightly. But I'm thinking that members of Gen Z and even millennials, maybe are resorting to this because of a social, I guess you're uncomfortable in social situations, so you resort to this. But and our modern technology sort of enables us to ghost, because we feel like it's not going to affect the person if we just don't respond. Like, kind of like that's just the norm. Like, it's the norm to just not respond or to not um, communicate. But just because we have this technology, this technology is actually a gift, and we need to like mindfully use the technology to communicate to other people. And ghosting is the complete opposite of that, where we shouldn't take, sorry, I'm getting distracted by the nature. I'm in nature, it's nice out, but we shouldn't take advantage of our technology, because what I'm saying is that we should use the technology to communicate. We shouldn't use technology to create barriers of connection, because those barriers lead to more confusion and miscommunication. And that's why I wanted to do this episode, is to raise awareness to the ghosting problem. I'm going to, for people that do struggle with ghosting, I'm going to recommend that you listen to the Coping with Ghosting podcast. It is such a really good podcast, but listen to that. I'm going to recommend that. I can't recommend that enough, because this podcast isn't just about ghosting, it's about like mental health. But ghosting is related to mental health, because people that get ghosted can struggle with anxiety over, what did I do? Is it my fault? What did I do? And that's the reaction. The reaction is anxiety, especially if you already struggle with anxiety or have an anxiety disorder. The ghosting could trigger that so much, and it triggers all of those like insecurities about yourself, where you just feel like it's your fault and you feel like no one wants to be your friend. But I'm here to tell you that, which I kind of will get to that later in the episode, is that ghosting has nothing to do with you, and it has all to do with the person doing it. Then it has to do with you. You didn't do anything to this person to, like, you could, that's on them. But let's start with like the aftermath of ghosting, or maybe like the mental health effects. Is that the person being ghosted, you, I guess what it's called, a ghostee. I'm not sure what it's called, but the person getting ghosted can feel depressed after, because that's like, you didn't, the person just drop out of your life, and you're wondering like, what happened? And it's like kind of like an ambiguous loss. You can't like, you don't have an answer to what happened. It's like they all of a sudden died, but they're still alive, but they also died. So it's a weird thing, and you're kind of reacting in a way as if someone actually died. No one actually died. It's just you didn't get an answer to why this friendship ended. Like, you couldn't prepare for this. It just happened, and that is a trauma. Let me get that straight. Ghosting is still a trauma, because your body isn't prepared for this abrupt change. So it is a trauma, and that you did not see this coming. It just all of a sudden happened. Let's get that straight. Oh, a pine cone. Sorry. But yeah, let's start there. That this is a trauma, and this is a relational trauma. That's why I say that ghosting shouldn't be taken lightly, because it's still a friendship or a relationship, and you're cutting off something that is meaningful to the other person, or meaningful. So this shouldn't be taken lightly. It doesn't matter if it's like a common thing now, or it's the thing they do, or everyone's doing it. Just because everyone's doing it doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. And everyone's doing it because we're all comfortable with communication. At least that's what I think. We're all uncomfortable with it. But and I'm going to recommend like going to therapy to heal from ghosting, because again, it is still a trauma, and you still need to heal from it. So that being said, taking that into consideration as naming it, you need to first name when you're dealing with like the mental health effects of getting ghosted, with a friendship, you first have to confront the mental, like the maybe depression that you feel or the heaviness that you feel after it, because it's unresolved, the unresolved grief of everything, and it could be, it could feel like hell. It could feel like hell trying to figure out what the heck happened. Is this person okay? What did I do? You have to deal with, like, there's different stages. I feel like the stages of ghosting. First, it's the what the heck happened, and then it's the self blame stage, then the stage where you try to reach out to the person. So there's different stages, which I'm going to touch a little bit about um, in the episode. Is the stage of, well, first the stage is like the stage of shock, because it just all of a sudden happened and you have no closure, you have nothing to go off of. Sorry, my nose. My nose is acting weird, but you have nothing to go off of, and it just happened. So you kind of have to, it's a shock, and it just happened. It's like a pie just suddenly exploded in your face. It's like, what the heck just happened? So first, that is the shock stage. Then it might be, and none of these stages are linear. Dealing with like emotional trauma, it's not linear, where you just, like, the stages of grief are it's helpful, but it's not linear. So the next stage might be kind of dealing with like the depression, or going in on yourself and saying, well, this reinforces the idea that no one wants to be my friend, and no one cares, and I should never trust people, and all those like all the negative narratives that you have kind of come to the surface. But that's that stage. Then you go to the self-blame stage, and you try to figure out what you did wrong to cause this to happen. And you kind of ask yourself, well, what did I do wrong? What did I push this person away? What did I do? And you kind of go through that loop of trying to figure out what you did wrong, and what about yourself made this person want to ghost you. And let me tell you, this stage freaking sucks, because you're trying to pick everything about yourself, or you're trying to find things about yourself that are not true, but you think it's true because of the ghosting that happened. And that's that stage. The self-blame stage sucks, and it feels like hell. The next stage is the bargaining stage, I guess, where you are trying to reach out to the person, because in your mind, like, maybe they didn't. And this is, I struggle with this. I struggle with all of these, just so you guys know. But this stage is where you reach out to the person to see, well, maybe they didn't mean to ghost me. Maybe something happened. Let me go talk to them to make sure everything's okay. And it can come from like a good place, but part of it is deep down you want to seek that validation from the other person. You want to reach out to that person because you're trying to seek the validation of your worth, and you're still trying to make sure you're trying to like, in your mind, you're trying to keep the friendship that has already ended and that has already gone. So, oh, look at the white-tailed deer. But I'm in Pennsylvania. I love Pennsylvania. But anyway, you're trying to seek that validation by trying to reach out to the person, and they probably blocked you, or they probably already or maybe they didn't block you, but they're just not going to respond, and part of you is hard to accept that's not going to happen. And So you constantly reach out as a way to prove, you're trying to prove yourself wrong about the person, basically. The person showed you who they are, and you're trying to prove yourself wrong by trying to reach out to the person, giving them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they didn't mean to ghost me. Maybe something happened. Let me make sure. Which, okay, maybe for the first couple of months, it's okay to do, but like after a certain time, if like they haven't responded, and I'm gonna talk about it later, um, when is it like? What do you do after? Like, do you still reach out to the person? Um, but yeah, that is that stage where you are going through that. You're keep trying to reach out, and nothing's going on. Um, then the next stage is the stage of grief. Is kind of like the reality of everything, the reality of the friendship, and where it, how limited it was and where it could go, and you kind of like you're you're grieving everything of the loss of the friendship, the loss of the person, the loss of who you thought the person was, and all that. So you're grieving everything, and this sucks. So I recommend, as always, if you're going through grieving, um, if you're grieving the trauma of ghosting, to go see a therapist, because you do not want to deal with this by yourself. Let me tell you, it is sucks and it feels like hell. But um, but yeah. So, and I think like the last stage is the stage of acceptance, where you come to peace of everything. You realize who the person is, and you realize that that doesn't have anything to do with your worth and your value as a person. And you realize that this person, um, it's about that person, it's not about you. But moving through all these stages, and again, like I said before, it's not linear, and moving through all these stages um, is hard, and it's a challenge because um, you did not deserve this as much as you put in the friendship. You didn't deserve to be ghosted. Um, you deserve someone that wants to have the same level of um, friendship or reciprocity as you. You deserve that, and you don't deserve just this abrupt ending, because that. Sorry, do you guys hear the stream? I'm loving this, but you don't deserve that, and you need someone that wants to have the same level of friendship as you. It might not be like a perfect friendship, but you need an authentic friendship. And the ghosting reveals that this person was not able to give that to you. And that is a reality that you have to accept. We tend to see people, like, we tend to idealize people because we tend to project our wants onto them. We tend to project, like, well, I want this authentic friendship. I want this intentional friendship, so that means this other person wants it. Or this other person is capable of it, but this person, the reality is they're not. And that takes a lot of acceptance to get there, to get to a place where you realize that this person wasn't ever able to have that to begin with. Maybe they showed you. So maybe, okay, so this is what's so confusing, is that at the beginning, usually the person will be very um, intentional about the friendship, and intentional about showing up and everything. But, and I'm gonna get to that later, because I did um, find something about attachments and how they kind of go about friendship. I have like a quote that I will share probably at the end of the episode. But for right now, understand that this person, they wanted, like in their mind, they wanted the same thing, but they didn't realize, they didn't know that they could not give that to you. And the it's kind of like a dream. Like they have a dream about the friendship, or like a dream about how they want to be friends. But when the rubber meets the road, they didn't realize that all their fears and self-doubts about friendships causes them to push people away. They're like kind of not aware of that. So it appears that this person must hate me, but actually, no, they don't hate you. They hate themselves. Unfortunately, it is it's the problem with the ghost. Unless you're like crazy, you're a crazy stalker, but you're not a crazy stalker. This person, um, is they they couldn't give what you needed, because deep down that is not something that they know how to do. They want to, like, ideally, we're talking about like on this podcast I talk about like the idealization. I can't say that. Ideally they want to give that to you, but the reality is they can't, and realizing that it's going to take it creates a lot of shame. So it's really a shame problem, and there's really like a lack of kind of skills. They kind of really don't know how to give that to you, and you think it's your fault, but really it's just the person you became friends with someone that didn't know how to develop an authentic friendship. That they wanted to do it, but they didn't know, either because of their past traumas that kind of inhibited their social capacities, or their fears and insecurities. That's on them. So the misconception is I did something wrong to cause this person to not want to be my friend. But that's not what happened. Unfortunately, the ghoster has a lot of like undealt with traumas and undealt with fears that they're probably not really aware of. And is usually tied to an avoidant attachment. It can be anxious as well, but I feel like it's more of an avoidant thing because you avoid anything that requires intimacy or vulnerability. So the ghosting kind of reveals that is their avoidance, just like strategy to not to kind of end things because of their they don't know. So anything that you don't know how to do, I feel like you have a lot of shame around. So if they feel like they don't know how to develop a friendship, that creates a lot of shame, and so that shame causes them to not want to communicate because they can't. So because so if they were to put themselves, if they were to make themselves invulnerable in front of you, that would scare them away because they are themselves afraid that you're going to see something about them that you're going to reject in them. So they're trying to reject. It's like rejecting before being rejected kind of thing. They're rejecting before being rejected as like a safety like method because they are afraid of they're afraid. And it's kind of it's sad, kind of it's very sad for the person that is ghosting people, because they don't really know how to have a friendship without just this method of breaking things off, because if they keep doing that, then they're just, that creates a self-fulfilling prophecy of no one likes me. So the ghosting, so the ghoster has the same problems that you do, but it just shows up in this way. They have like the same insecurities, but ghosting is a method of dealing with that. But anyway, that's kind of like the sort of the person behind the behavior. I'm trying to like So with any like behavior like this, it's wise and compassionate to understand the person's humanity, but also to understand your humanity as well. You need to deal with your trauma that this um, you need to deal with the trauma of doing that. So it's to kind of get yourself back after being ghosted. You need to recover and develop your self-esteem, because you are I imagine you listening to this being a very compassionate person and someone that wants to have good friendships. And that's not to say that the other person isn't. It's not to paint this person as a bad person. It's just this unsolved part of themselves causes them to not have good friendships. But anyway, we're focusing on you and your recovery. Recovering from this is going to take some time, obviously. Um, and how to react is going to look different for each situation. I would say it's okay to reach out to that person a couple of times, and if they show that they're still not like really responding, then it's best to let them go. And that's going to be hard because it creates a lot of confusion, because at first things were seemingly okay, and then all of a sudden they just kind of stop responding. And it takes a lot of it takes a lot of strength to not try to reach out to them, because you're like in your mind you're trying to connect the dots of who this person actually is, because what they showed you a part of themselves that ideally wanted to develop the friendship, but weren't deep down really actually capable of doing that. And that it's confusing to you. So you're just kind of like, which person is real and who is real in this situation? Who is this person actually? So the answer is this person actually, the person that goes to you, that's them as well. They always had this problem, and it didn't just suddenly just happen. They always had a problem with this. It's just it unfortunately happened with you as a person that wants a friendship, and it just unfortunately happened. But this person was always like this. That it has nothing to do with you. All of a sudden, you did something. No. So the mental the mental mess that I felt after being ghosted was really just me being confused of who the person actually is. It's kind of like you were befriending two people. You were befriending the person that ghosted you, but also the person that seemed to want to be friends with you. So it's very confusing. Like, what? But the confusion reveals that it's an unhealthy dynamic, and that is not a person you should be friends with. If they're confusing you that much, that means that they don't have they're not secure about themselves in general, and the confusion reveals a lot. It reveals a lot about that person, and it reveals so much of how it's good to just let go. Letting go is freaking hard, especially if you are someone that cherishes their friendships and cherishes their relationships. It's freaking hard, because making friends as an adult already is freaking hard. And to experience ghosting like this is freaking hard. It feels like hell because you feel like what am I doing wrong of making friends? And you're not doing anything wrong. It's just this person has their own social anxiety that causes them to not show up in the way that they would like. And it's an unfortunate state to be in. And it's more about having compassion for them and wishing that they will actually wishing that they would get help for their behavior, but not being codependent that you're trying to save this person from their ghosting behavior. You can't save someone from something that's why I said to limit how you reach out to that person, because you can show that you care, but also don't try to save someone from a behavior that they're not willing to change yet. So, but letting go is more of, letting go is more about knowing your worth and with what happened, knowing your worth and knowing that there are better people out there for you, and knowing that not everyone is like this. And it seems in today's world that everyone is just ghosting everyone. And part of that feeling that everyone's ghosting everyone, part of that I believe is true, because again, like I said earlier in the podcast episode, like now, I feel like it's more enabled or just more normalized, as it's a normalized solution, quote unquote solution to a bigger problem. But so don't but it shouldn't, don't normalize it. So it's not normal at all. It's wrong. But you are, well, I heard something. I am outside recording an episode. But you deserve much more. I might actually have to pause it because I don't know what that noise was. I'm going to go check it out. But know that you deserve more than this, and there's better out there for you. It's just going to take a while to find that. Developing your support system after being ghosted is vital and crucial to overcoming this, and it's crucial. And I want to be an advocate for talking about ghosting because it is a problem now. It seems like an epidemic, but that's what I'm going to talk about today. So I will be back. Hang tight. I gotta pause. Alright, so I'm back, and back to talk about the impact of ghosting. I think I've kind of talked enough about it on the episode to kind of as starting to talk about it. I kind of want to talk more about it on the podcast and talk about the impact of ghosting on friendships and connection. So this will probably be like a series of episodes, and today I just wanted to go through what does it mean when we say I've been ghosted, and how do you react? Now, as with anything, sorry, I'm back outside, but as with anything, I recommend to send them as ending off of this abrupt ending. To seek closure for yourself, I recommend that you send them compassion and wish them well, but also, I recommend that you what I did is I wrote a journal letter to them, to like to the person that ghosted me, but I didn't send it to them. I kind of just wrote a letter to myself as like a way to end things as a closure. So what I did, um, as you can hear, I'm back out in nature. But what I did, I said, "Hey, so and so, um, I wish that this friendship would have worked out, but unfortunately, um, I haven't heard from you, and just there's no communication. So I'm just gonna have. I think it's best if we don't pursue a friendship, and just leave it at that note instead of trying to. That way, you seek closure in yourself, and you release that burden. Um, you release that burden. Now, whatever you do with the letter is completely up to you. Um, I just write. I don't burn my letters, but it's a way for me to seek closure and to just let things go. Because sometimes you just have to do that, and it's not. It's hard, and especially depending on the level of closeness you had with this person, it's going to be hard. If it's like someone you just met, then it's probably going to be less of an emotional toll. But if you knew this person for years or just felt a deep connection with this person, it's going to be very hard to reconcile who you wanted the person to be versus who they actually are. And that is probably the last thing I'm going to say today is you will have to grieve who you thought the person was and who you also wanted them to be. You'll have to grieve that and let that go. Oh, and one more thing is I, w- I wanted to say that with um, about like because men's couch is about men's friendships, and I kind of want to say that um, with with ghosting, I feel like I don't know if it I don't know statistically if it's more prevalent in men. I have no idea, but I would say that the behavior itself reveals that men might be a little bit more uncomfortable with communication, and ghosting reveals that we're uncomfortable with that the the vulnerability in a friendship of allowing someone to see us, to be seen, and to for someone else to know us. And that's kind of like a side tangent is um, is why I think maybe men struggle with ghosting. I know women do it as well, but I'm saying that men might struggle with that because they it, it's quote unquote easier for us to split off that part of ourselves um, that part of ourselves that has the capacity for a friendship because as um, as a socialization process is that men um, aren't supposed to cry. Men don't have these emotions, and when it comes down to like a friendship, when we've split off a part of ourselves, we're not going to be capable of having that relationship because that emotional part has been split off. Anyway, that's a side tangent. But what I'm saying is that to to move on is to send this person compassion. I'm always, I advocate for forgiveness, um, but don't wait for someone to. Also, don't wait for someone to just uh, come back. You're like, because that's another question. Is like, what if this person comes back? Um, First of all, that's not likely to happen. At least in my life, I've never had a ghost I've never had someone ghost me and then come back into my life. Um, there is a possibility that that person, with dealing, they, with confronting themselves and dealing with all of their um, stuff, that they will have the capacity for a friendship. But that's let's be honest, that's not likely to happen. This person is just avoiding things and avoiding you because being in a friendship with you requires that they have the self-awareness, and they're like kind of avoiding all that. So yeah, but it's not likely to happen, and you shouldn't wait for someone to you shouldn't wait for a ghost, because the ghost is quote unquote dead and you shouldn't wait for someone to come back to life. So you no um, you should just mourn the loss of it by accepting it, mourn the loss of it, and um, yeah, just mourn the loss and mourn the loss of who you thought the person was. But that's kind of all I wanted to say today for this episode. I'm probably gonna, like, when Men's Couch does like the regular episodes, we're probably gonna elaborate on it more. But that's just kind of um, my 2 cents about ghosting. To someone listening to this, I hope that you you don't internalize this, but that you find healing and find people that have the capacity for connection, because just because this happened, not everyone will do that, and it's hard to trust. I know, believe me, it's hard to trust. But ooh, I almost fell. But part of part of uh, doing friendship is doing risk and doing vulnerability, and that's like kind of what we value on Men's Couch, is risking for connection. And if it doesn't work, it that you don't internalize it if it doesn't work. But also, let's be honest, it's probably one of the reasons why the person resorts to ghosting. It's because they're trying to avoid risk, and it's like a fear response. But that's what I wanted to say. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and that you heal from this. And you will hear from me soon. All right. Oh, I forgot about the quote. So here's a quote about attachments from "You Will Find Your People" by Lane Moore. She's really good. Um, so she says, in many of my friendships with people who have avoidant attachments, I've noticed there's a pattern of pushing and pulling, and she says it doesn't always begin the way you think. So she says I've noticed many times avoidant attachments will begin a friendship with bold declarations of love, gifts, and promises that um, so that's kind of how that um, it begins before they ghost. Sorry, I'm paraphrasing, but that's how it begins before they ghost. Is they usually begin with doing all, like, being so intentional about the friendship. Um, let's see. So later on, she says they may have simply felt really excited about you and genuinely wanted to keep doing them, but then later realized they couldn't. And that's what I said about throughout the episode, is people like people that ghost. It's not like a malicious thing or a malicious intent. It's just they realized that they couldn't give the things that they wanted to give to you in a friendship. Um, and she validates that. She says many avoidant attachments genuinely want to do the things they promise, genuinely mean the things they say, and then later scare themselves with how much they care for this new person. So it's really, as I said before, it's a shame for me that that means that they have a shame identity, and they deep down feel that they they can't they they have this idea of trying to be a good friend, but the shame kicks in, and then that says that they can't do it. So it's really a self-esteem shame problem. But so ghosting is a behavior, but behind that is the self-esteem shame, and then also anxiety. This person probably has a partial part of its social anxiety with the avoidant attachment, and the avoidant strategy is to ghost because of the social anxiety. But that's kind of that's the quote that I did. I apologize if I forgot about the quotes. I didn't have the book on me, but I do now, and it's really good. I recommend um, reading it. It says a lot about attachment styles and friendships, and if you want to understand yours and understand other people's, then I I would recommend this. But again, this is kind of like my second um, ending. Is I hope you have a good day and enjoy um, the rest of the podcast.